Hi there. This little video is going to look at what was state capitalism. So, a bit of background then. So, the October Revolution changed the world. However, it now had to deal with very serious issues and put its theories into practice. And one massive challenge was economics. Russia had faced immense economic challenges during the war, and the provisional government had failed to produce much change. The pressure, though, was on the Bolsheviks, and the very first policy they tried was state capitalism. So there was huge economic problems facing Russia in 1918. There was huge inflation, food shortages, potential famine after loss of Ukraine and the Brest-Litovsk Treaty. There was devastation caused by the First World War. There was inefficient factories, lack of raw materials, and a really desiccated and inefficient railway network. So the aims of state capitalism were numerous. Firstly, the aim of it was to stabilize the economy. After so many years of war, chaos, revolution, and disruption, the Bolsheviks aimed to stabilize the economy after the October Revolution. State capitalism aimed to keep the economy functioning by maintaining key elements of capitalism under state control, avoiding immediate economic collapse. They also wanted to retain bourgeois expertise and industrial production. So the Bolsheviks lacked the expertise to run complex industries that they needed as well too. And state capitalism allowed the continued use of bourgeois managers, technicians, and industrialists under state supervision to keep the factories that they needed going and the economy running. What are the other aims of state capitalism then? Well, thirdly, it aims to ensure state control over key industries. So the state began to take control of what they call the commanding heights of the economy, the big banks, transport, heavy industry, while allowing some smaller private enterprises to continue. This was to prevent capitalist sabotage and consolidate control. They also wanted to appease the peasants and reduce opposition. So full collectivization or grain requisitioning wasn't yet implemented. It'll be later on for that. By tolerating private enterprise and ownership of land, state capitalism was designed to avoid alienating the peasantry too soon. And then finally, you've got this gradual transition to socialism. So Lenin saw state capitalism as a temporary and necessary compromise. The aim was to rebuild the economy using capitalist methods under state control before moving towards full socialist central planning. Institutions like the Vesenkha, the Supreme Council of the National Economy, were created to oversee industry and guide the economy towards socialism. And the goal was not to abolish capitalism overnight, but to try to actually put it under strict state regulation. So you can see here how Marxist theory works, that you start off with slave society, moving your way towards feudal society, capitalist society, socialist society, and then on to like a communist society. This process is very important for Bolsheviks. They believed in this system that had to follow a certain process to get their way to a full communist society. So therefore believed that Russia had to go through state capitalism to actually reach socialism. So this meant that there was a realization by Lenin that they could not turn Russia communist overnight, but would have to use the existing structures to try to manipulate the system forward. And it was Lenin's aim to make this popular amongst Russians, aided by propaganda. So, what are the policies of state capitalism? Well, the first big one is the Land Decree of November 1917. This legitimized peasant land seizures of November 1917. And it was not as radical as it seemed, as the seizure of the land had already happened during the time of the provisional government, but they managed to seize land off the likes of the church and big aristocrats as well at this time. There's also a decree on workers' control in 1917. This handed management of factories, the means of production, over from managers and factory owners towards shop stewards and trade unions. Again, it's only confirming what had already taken place, putting stricter controls over what was required from them. Then you have the Vesenkha, the Supreme Council of National Economy. So this was to become known as the Gosplan. It was set up in December 1917 to organise and develop the national economy and state finances. and it was attached to the Council of People's Commissars, the Sovnarkom. It aimed to take control of key state industries like transportation, nationalise the banks, and nationalise large-scale manufacturing as well. So, what about an analysis of how did this all go down? Well, it's boosted it boosted support for the new regime, especially among workers and peasants. However, it was unsustainable in light of looming civil war, which needed a lot more control of the resources in order to win that. Workers' committees were inefficient. There was a fall in industrial output and shortages of food and fuel in some cities. And the Bolsheviks opposed it on ideological grounds because it compromised by allowing some elements of capitalism, and it was replaced with war communism in 1918. Hopefully, this helps.